Hello and welcome back to the Keeping It Real Estate podcast with Chris Bober.
Jen Bober.
Here at Team Bober Nebraska Realty. And of course, we're realtors for Nebraska Realty, and our team mission is to build relationships by building a positive real estate experience to exceed our clients' expectations, and we do that through education and empowering our clients. We serve with authentic hospitality, and we provide client-first representation. So as a reminder, if you are listening to this as a podcast, make sure you smash that subscribe button, right? It sounded cool right there, right?
Right.
So make sure you subscribe so you get updates when we do publish new episodes. If you're watching us on YouTube, right down there is the little subscribe button. Push that little bell too. It'll give you notifications when we have new videos, which we have for our podcast, for new listings and shorts and stuff like that. Our handle on social media is at Team Bober on all the different social media channels. And if you guys would like, comment, retweet, share, send us some questions, anything you have out there, we'd love to engage with you guys.
Yes.
Okay, so we are about halfway through with 2024.
Whew,
and
what
kind
fast.
of the theme of this episode is going to be kind of the new normal, right?
Yeah.
Which really is the old normal. And we're
Right.
going to talk about that, how we kind of had some unicorn years in there. And the market we're in right now is definitely challenging, but it's pretty normal. And
Yeah.
we're going to show you how that is.
There's
And
something comfortable about it. It's kind of nice, actually.
it is. It's a little bit more balanced
Yeah.
market. So we're going to give you an update on what's gone on this year and kind of how we're dealing with it, how we're helping our clients, and then, of course, what we see coming for the rest of this year. Now, to start out with, let's just kind of talk about 2024, right? It's been a tale of two halves, honestly. Remember, we came on the beginning of the year and we talked about what's going to happen this year. And a lot of things that we talked about have came to fruition, and some of the things haven't.
Right.
So just a little history, right? We had these kind of unicorn years, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, where it was a very, very heavy seller's market. Interest rates were historic lows and lack of inventory. And that all led to these record-breaking years, especially from the sales side.
Yeah.
From listing and selling your homes, sellers had complete control over it.
Yeah.
They had all the leverage, and there's this expectation that those things would just continue on, and they kind of didn't. So, we had COVID, which kind of was a false representation, but still really good years. And in 2022, we saw the interest rates go from about 3% to about 8%.
Yeah.
So they more than doubled.
Yep.
And that really stalled out our market. So 23, last year, was a down year. And what we had talked about is the people who need to sell and who need to move or buy, they still exist, right? People continue to get married, get divorced, have babies,
Life
need
events.
to get
Yep.
bigger houses, smaller houses. All those things kept happening, but people were sitting on the sidelines because the interest rates were high and they were just kind of waiting. And then going into this year, we had some positive expectations, I would say. And those...
Well, all the industry leaders and people that study our market and the big gurus, we're doing all their predictions for 2024. And I think they had some good information and then others that was just kind of on a wing and a prayer, and they were kind of hoping,
Well, some of the top...
So now we have some time to look back and say, okay, what did we hit and what did we miss?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, it is the timeline of some of these things is a little bit different than we thought.
Yeah.
So coming into 24, the first quarter was really, really good. I mean, kind of record-breaking. In January, February, March, we were building up to this vaunted spring market that we were expecting. And the expectation was, because it was kind of shoved down our throats, was that the federal interest rate was gonna drop, right? And because after a year or two of raising it consecutively, they're saying, okay, now we're getting inflation under control. And in March, we predicted we're gonna drop the rate, and they predicted up to three or four interest rates. That doesn't necessarily directly impact mortgage rates, but it's a confidence thing. It's consumer confidence.
Yeah.
And I think people were expecting that. And they were going into the first quarter saying, okay, it's going to be good. Well, in March and April, when that didn't happen, we saw a pretty dramatic shift in the market, would you say?
It just stopped.
Yeah, it changed dramatically.
Yeah.
The spring market, where usually in April, May, and June, we have 60% of the sales happen.
Right.
That acceleration didn't happen. We still saw a steady market, don't get me wrong, but because people were let down by the interest rates, and in fact, mortgage rates started to go up a little bit, right? They started getting back towards the 6s, and they went back up 7, maybe 8% over a period of time, and it really kind of just dampened people's expectations, I'd say. So that's what we saw happen, and that happened pretty fast, and I don't think we saw that. I think we still think the interest rate drops are coming, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's a little bit delayed, and I think people are still kind of on the sidelines.
It's like we've had a late bloom in our market.
Yeah, well, it hasn't really bloomed yet.
Right.
We're expecting it to bloom, but it hasn't done yet. So this market has changed, and we're going to kind of talk about our experience out in the trenches and how this has affected our clients by what's going on there. But we that's where we are right now, I would say. Okay, so let's talk about how this is affecting our clients. Number one, on the seller side. January, February, and March are, usually slower months. They were actually pretty steady, pretty good. Pricing was good. Expectations were good. And I think about May, right? About May, we saw the market really kind of stall out, mostly because of unrealized expectations.
As compared to historically, what
we expect in May.
Right.
Now, the way this affected our sellers in particular is that they were kind of let down by the non-acceleration of a spring market. And the way it affected us really is, we deal with clients, on a relational basis. So oftentimes we're talking to sellers, weeks or months in advance as they prepare to sell their house, right? A lot of challenges that come with that. We talk about how they can improve their home, how they can get their situation right, get themselves prepared to do that. So the message we were giving them in the first quarter, once they decided to put their house on the market and it changed, well, some of those expectations were met, and we saw that happen. We saw several of our sellers who, going into it, we thought, man, this is priced great for its condition, for its location, and what it turned out that the buyer's expectations had changed, right? And that happened pretty fast, and in fact, so much so that we have actually changed our message. Since we've seen this happen, we've changed it. And what we typically do when we go to pricing is, I'll do a bunch of research. That's my role on the team, and I'll give them a price range. Right, let's say it's $250 to $275, and when we get actually the time to put it on the market, based upon what's happened in the market, we will say, okay, let's price it like $269, or let's price it at $255, whatever it might be. We'd always, for past several years, lean towards the top of that market because the market was getting that. But over this quick time period, what we saw is that the prices were coming in at the lower end of that range. And it was a hard transition because these people have been hearing this message and their expectations, and all we can really look at for evidence is the past. And the past was showing us a growing market. And it changed. So we had several sellers that kind of, we ended up getting their houses sold in several instances, but the expectations were a little bit less because it changed pretty fast.
You just had to re-educate people and, help them understand the shift. And we're trying to re-educate as quickly as we're learning it. We're watching it every day. We're having experiences every day. And so you try to pass that information on, but it's still those first one or two when you see a shift is like the kind of the bumpy part of the road, and people start to understand then from there.
Yeah, it really has been, and it's taken a lot of, a lot of counseling. Right? And these people are people that are selling. So they're going to sell, but it definitely has created challenges for us in trying to live up to their expectations, but still trying to do that. Now, our buyers, on the other hand, had some pleasant surprises as we got into the market in our second quarter. And Jen deals with more buyers than I do, but we've been pleasantly surprised at some of the results we've been able to get for our buyers.
It used to be a buyer to have one chance. You had to look at the home the day it went on market, make an offer for over, these very volatile type situations. Well, it's not like that anymore. They've got a little bit, the market has balance. It's not solely a seller's market anymore. They're still doing really great, but it's like kind of how it used to be before the frenzy. And it's nice because we're seeing where buyers are able to go in and negotiate a little bit more, whether it be terms or a little bit on price. If they have a contingency to sell their home or they need a little bit of closing costs, those things are getting accepted. And, every situation is different, but I think in general, you're seeing a little bit more of what we love to do, which is negotiate,
Yeah, and while buyers are, paying a little bit more for mortgage rates. They're not competing as much,
Yeah.
right? They are getting some more favorable terms. And we'll give you some examples of those here when we talk specifically about that. But buyers they feel a little bit more empowered, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so too. We've got timing they have time once and again to really take the time to make a decision on putting an offer in, a buyer. And so that's been nice too. So it's definitely shifted in that way.
Yeah, it definitely has. So now let's talk about kind of how our strategy has changed. And we'll give you some examples in there, right? And we'll start with the seller side, right? When it comes to people who call us about listing and going through the challenges of listing and selling their house, some things have come to light that haven't been there in a while. The number one thing is going to be the price. Now, the price has always been that. But like I said, when I do my research and I come up with a range, our new strategy that we have seen succeed very, very well recently is to price it to sell, right?
Yeah.
Price it on the lower end of the strategy of the price range. And the reason we do that is we always want to give our clients the most amount of options, right? And that's what people want, in life, right? You want the option to choose A or B or A or B or C, and that makes you feel empowered, and it definitely makes you feel better. And in order to do that from the listing side now, is you need to price on the lower end of the range. And there's one example. As this market shifted, one of our clients, we went into them, and I told them their house was worth between $350 and $375. They were in a situation where they had to sell, and I said, okay, the market shifted. One strategy I think we should consider is pricing it at $350. And not only did that get us on a price point, which got us shown and found below and above, which is a great strategy, but it really made it look like it was a good deal. It made it look like it was fair. And what happened was, over the weekend, we had 22 showings and we had 4 offers.
And that we hadn't seen that in a while.
We haven't. And we ended up selling it for more than $350. And in fact, it closes next week.
Yep.
Right? For more than $350, and it got great terms. It really did. And it was a strategy I think that we're going to start using a lot more, or trying to convince our clients to use that a lot more. That's definitely been something that has helped. The other thing that's really, really come up is condition matters now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right? So over these unicorn years that we've been in, really the house is what it is.
Yep.
And because of the demand and because of the interest rates, we really saw that you could sell your house, let's just not say as is.
Right.
But the sellers had the power to
not really do much.
Refuse to do inspection repairs. I mean, a lot of sales have gone through without an inspection. But when there was an inspection, it was either you're going to take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And that's not happening as much anymore. Because buyers are spending more, right? Cost of everything has gone up.
They expect a little different product.
Yeah, and they expect that if something is wrong, that the seller's going to fix it. And sellers, it's been hard to kind of get in their heads that that's fair.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean...
Well, and, it used to be where the seller could just kind of show up to the dance and, didn't have to concede as much, really. And now I think it's kind of cool how it's balanced out, and everybody has a common goal, right? But everybody's going to have to give and take a little bit. And so you're seeing that more.
Yeah, and when we price stuff, we have to I look harder at condition than I ever have.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just say the house next door sold for X amount, so mine's going to sell for the same amount.
Right.
Well, we have to really compare condition, because that's what buyers are seeing as having value there. We also have had sellers that we've helped them get their stuff done, but they've had to do a lot more than it was expected.
Yes.
Right? And it either cost them to have that repaired or to take something off the price or give them a credit.
Right.
And we got some that have closed that way. It's just kind of the new normal.
Yeah,
right?
it
And
is.
really, in all the years of real estate,
But it's the old normal.
it's just normal.
Yeah, it's
right?
just normal, right?
But what we're doing now is we're negotiating in fairness, and both sides pretty much have equal ground.
Yeah.
The buyers can be more demanding for repairs and conditions, and the sellers, they're still in a good position.
They're still getting good price.
Yeah, and what it's really kind of done, and we've noticed this, is we, as realtors, we're seeing our value come more to light, because it does take a professional to negotiate, not only negotiating that initial contract, but we're helping our clients negotiate through the inspection process, the appraisal process. All of those things are coming to light, and we are definitely more in the game than we have been in a long time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun.
Which
Busy.
I think it's good, because it makes us work. right?
Yeah.
And it holds us accountable to doing our job.
Yeah.
And that's why you need a good realtor like Team
Yes.
Bober. Now, from our buyer's side, we are really going in there talking about value, right? And before it's like whatever the seller and all the other buyers are going to pay for it, we have to match or beat that. Where now we can do our research and, say, this house down here sold for this, so we really don't want to go that much above it. We have a little bit more ground to stand on, and I think our buyers are appreciating that.
Yeah. It's been refreshing almost to see, that we've always provided that value and that data and our opinion based off the research and our experience. But now that's actually a little bit more valuable, it feels like, because we're not in this like feeding frenzy of we just have to hurry up and get it so we have a roof over our head.
Yeah,
you know?
and we've seen like the number of days on market's doubled since last year. And then, of course, more terms are coming in there. Another thing that's come to light is, and this is a pretty dramatic change, is in the new construction field.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've seen some stuff there that's been interesting.
Yeah, and I just saw a statistic this week that said for the first time in a long time, the average price of new construction has gone down.
Wow. Yeah, we haven't heard that in years.
We haven't. And of course, we're seeing our value assisting our clients purchase new construction properties. In fact, we have one under contract right now that we actually offered less than what they wanted, which is unheard of in new construction.
Yeah.
Usually it's the builder builds it, that's his price plus his profit. It's take it or leave it. If not, someone else will buy it. And they're contributing some closing costs.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that this is a really favorable thing for you guys that are watching and listening is it's become more feasible to sell your house and buy a house and make your move at the same time.
We're used to have to, you didn't have as much flexibility and you had to find housing in between the sell and a buy. And now, we're people are more willing to work with you. You can time those things up. You don't have to have the in-between housing, which can be really nice too. That matters.
It does. And buyers are able to really sell their house and time up the closing so they can move from one house to the next one without sometimes a storage unit or in between housing or staying at mom and dad's house.
Right.
Those things have definitely come back into light, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I do too.
I really do.
Yeah.
So the value there is there for buyers. We do anticipate rates going down, so you can always refinance at some point. But home ownership, the basic human need of shelter.
They still need it.
They still need it, and that's definitely happening, and we're seeing that on both the seller and the buyer side. So our strategy has changed, our message has changed, how we serve our clients is still the same, but we are just managing expectations in these and trying to stay ahead of it so our clients know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of to finish off, let's talk about what's going to happen for the rest of the year. Okay, the chief economist for NAR, for the Fed, for everything out there, we thought that we were going to get interest rate drops already, right? We know interest rates are going to come down, right? The Fed has said that they're going to lower the rate at some point. They're just trying to pick the right time. It might be a little political, although we won't get into that.
Shocking.
But we know interest rates and mortgage rates are going to come down. We don't predict them going up. Nobody does. It's just a matter of when that happens. Now, typically in our market, we have a seasonality to where it's kind of a curve, right? That first market, that spring market, is where about 60% of the sales happen. You get a little lull as school gets out. The summer gets a little bit more, right? Maybe 15%. And then the fall's maybe like 20%. And then, of course, in between there's sales there. What we're not us predicting, but what some of the experts are predicting out there is that once the interest rate comes down, which we are pretty confident will happen before the election.
Right.
Once mortgage rates start to come down, which, again, we're confident of that, these people who are on the sidelines now will re-enter the market in a mass force.
Yep.
So we actually predict that our market this year is going to be flipped, right? And this comes from Brian Buffini, who is one of the leading people in the industry. We think that our spring market's going to happen in the fall.
Yeah.
And with better interest rates, with more people coming to the market to make their move to sell and to buy. So anytime from here on out, as soon as that little crack of positivity comes in, I think the dam's going to break.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a very robust market coming this second half of the year. So we're excited about that.
We're ready.
We're ready. I know
we're preparing. It's something we're teed up for.
We have a lot of clients who are waiting for that, even though we're saying, it's always a good time to buy and sell. I think as just how we are as people, especially in our culture, people want to feel like they're winning.
Yeah.
So once that happens, I think we're going to see that kind of go open. But the real message here is that no matter which market we're in, like we still have to serve our clients.
Oh yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter if it's a market where there's a whole bunch of foreclosures and it's horrible, or it's this unicorn market like we had in the past. We have to change our game and sharpen our skills to prepare our clients to serve them, because people always need to buy and sell houses, right? That basic human need of shelter is the American dream, right? So we are here to help no matter which market. If it's good, if it's bad, mortgage rates are high or low, high or low inventory. It doesn't matter for us. We are always here to help. And we do it by educating our clients, preparing them, authentic hospitality. We want to put our clients first, and that's what we believe in. So we're always here for you guys. Now, before we wrap up, I want to say that, following this, we're going to be coming out with a series of podcasts and videos that's going to explain some of the changes that are happened with this NAR settlement.
Within our industry.
We talked about that a couple months ago, and we're still waiting, although we're really close to actually implementing these changes with the decoupling of commissions, with mandatory buyer agency agreements, and how that's going to affect the market. And it really probably affects us more as anything. The market's going to keep going, but how we do business is going to change a little
paperwork.
bit. And we are going to be here to explain that, to stay in front of it, so that in a couple months when these changes become mandatory, you're not completely blindsided when you get into the process of buying or selling a house. We are building our process for that now, waiting for a couple more things to come out that are going to give us direction. But we are going to be here to help you with that. So look forward to that. So that's kind of it for today. Mid-year, we are in a very much a holding pattern, but we are active. We have several buyer and seller clients right now that are still doing good. But for those of you that are on the sidelines or waiting, I'd recommend probably get started on that process now.
Just reach out and have a conversation.
Yeah, and we are never too busy for you or any of your people, any of your referrals. We serve, again, with authentic hospitality. We educate them. And even if you're not ready right now, let's get you started in that process so when the time comes, you're locked and loaded and ready to go. So, again, that's Chris and Jen Bober with the Keep It a Real Estate podcast. As a reminder, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, share, retweet, comment on our social media at Team Bober. And all this information, of course, will be on our website, teambober.com. The blog articles that we do every month are there. I have a lot of evidence in there if you feel like reading it. And then we'll, of course, put our videos and our podcasts and stuff on there. So once again, thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We are always here to help.
Thanks.